we're supposed to talk on understanding resilience. I was looking to, was thinking on this topic. What really means resilience. I have a little problem with this resilience. I feel sometimes the resilience is a main problem because we don't sit enough with the challenges or the pain and problem we have in our life. And we bounce back so fast and we tend to forget things so fast. I was thinking about the COVID, what did we really learn from COVID? What did we really change? Is resilience something that we really need to cultivate, or maybe the resilience is a weakness? Maybe at the individual level, it might be a good thing, but if you think collectively, the resilience is like maybe making us not to think, maybe forget things so fast and not look back and never reflect and then move on as if nothing really happened in our life. These are the questions that came to my mind. But there's another important aspect that we must understand. Resilience without compassion can be very selfish. So I encourage when I see so many people think resilience is a very independent skill, but encouraged actually the resilience with practicing with the compassion. Resilience without compassion can be very a selfish act sometimes. So these are questions and thought is coming in my mind. I'm just sharing with you. So today's discussion that I encourage all of us to think together, let's think together and think hard together. Because I like discussion, not really fond of lecture, although I have to do this as a part of my work many times, but I prefer discussion. The collective learning, the collective transformation is what we need. It is almost like a jazz music. We play together. We need one another to create a great music. We need to improvise. Discussions, good questions are very powerful way to evoke our conscious mind and reignite our original intelligence. So many of us actually talking about artificial intelligence. Many of us are really scared or feel very uncertain about artificial intelligence. But I feel it is time to reignite our original intelligence. I'm not against artificial intelligence. AI is fine, but I think it is important at the same time to equally pay attention and, if possible, to reignite our humans' original intelligence. Because the world needs collective wisdom and understanding to experience healing and peace and happiness more than ever before. Lately, I have been using tabla as a metaphor, as a small traditional hand drums used in Indian music. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. I'm using this tabla metaphor as for discussion and teaching, because quality of melody or the sounds are so much dependent on the skills of tabla players. Also, I talk about the people who are teacher or educator or even sometimes the parents. When we are teaching, trying to teach our students or disciples or our children or even our friends, I'm thinking maybe the one of the most important quality is to have for the educators or parents or the teacher is stinginess. Being very stingy, not just mindlessly give the information and answer. Rather be a little bit stingy about sharing your knowledge and wisdom and information or giving an answer. Because learning requires deep reflection, thinking. And if we fail to think and reflect, then transformation never comes. So the tabla metaphor is very appropriate, I feel. How we can contrive the wonderful sound from the tabla is so much dependent on how we actually play our fingers on tabla. Something like that. Because good question is hitting to the tabla is so much like actually, as I said, improvising. Good questions can trigger our mind to think deeper and reflect on the issues that we are facing. And this is, I think, so important. So that's why I encourage, I'm sure like I am talking, I'm the main person gonna talk most of the time, but we all can actually think together. And we also can reflect together as I'm sharing some of my thoughts. And then later we will have some Q&A session to maybe make this discussion more meaningful. So as I mentioned, understanding resilience, how to cultivate a joy and a purpose in a difficult time, during a difficult time. But first thing is, just simply the mere resilience is, I think, is not enough. The world requires more than just resilience. World requires maybe the resilience plus compassion, and then engagement, then action to bring a positive change and make this our world better for everybody. So even in order to understand resilience, first one must understand the challenge and our relationship with the challenges. To understand what is destroying our peace and what is destroying our happiness, and understand that and redefine our relationship with those events and experiences. So when we think about that, there are a couple of very important questions comes to my mind. As I was thinking that yesterday, as I was preparing for this talk, does a challenge have a innate power? Does challenge have a intrinsic or innate power to destroy our peace and joy? This is something I've been thinking. I mean, we've been using the word challenge, but any event or any circumstances or situation we dislike, as this challenge have an innate power to destroy our peace and joy. So this is one question it came in my mind very strongly. Second question I was thinking is, can we find a joy or in happiness in the same situation or in the same life events which is causing us a pain or distress or a despair? This is another question that comes in my mind as I was exploring and thinking and reflecting uh, uh, in order to understand resilience. We're thinking about how to cultivate joy in a difficult uh, 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 times in our life. Even more like, are the joy and challenges are two opposite entity, or they are two sides of same thing? So I hope it's making sense. This maybe this three question is something I'm thinking a lot about this, you know. Because challenge is not a real challenge by itself, but our lack of understanding challenge is a real problem. Because I don't think challenge has an intrinsic power to destroy joy and peace, or any event, life event has a intrinsic power to destroy our peace and joy, our happiness, or make us unhappy. Maybe it is lack of our understanding challenge is a problem. Because ignorance, unawareness plays a massive role in preventing us from experiencing joy, happiness, peace in our lives. And we all have experience in, you know, how our own ignorance and unawareness plays a key role in preventing us from experiencing joy, peace in our lives. So these are questions I would like to share with you, and maybe you know, it's not so much about I'm coming with the answer to these questions, but I think, you know, as a part of part of our practice to cultivate resilient skill is to sit with this unanswered question, sit with this discomfort, sit with this ignorance is a way to understand resilience. Because most of our personal challenges or our collective challenges that we are facing, when we face, we tend to move so fast. As I mentioned at the beginning, even a COVID, it was a terrible time. It was a very difficult, unexpected time for all of us. But now when you look back, when you travel, when you meet people, you know, we act, we think, we live like nothing really happened. I don't know any of you could actually see any changes in your own personal way of life or changes in a collective way of life. It won't bother us anymore. Or maybe we don't care if this kind of situation happens again in our lifetime, or maybe lifetime of our children and grandparents. Or we feel hopeless, or we feel like helpless, or we don't care. So why are all these things? These are something our behaviors, I think, needs more attention, so we can reconnect with ourselves and we can reconnect with the larger humanity. But we tend to just move so fast. If we don't sit, if we don't feel comfortable sitting with these discomfort and reflect on these difficulties, I don't think we will have any solution, or I don't think we can put effort to bring any changes in way we think, way we live, way we act. I remember one very appropriate quote, I think Einstein's, that he said, "It is not that I am so smart, it is just that I stay with problem longer." I think staying with the problem longer is a skill. Excuse me, I think we dropped something here. 1 second. It's okay. Technology. And how many of us can actually think of staying with the pain, sitting with the pain, living with the discomfort to truly reflect? And if we can do that, I think that is a first step. That is a first step to understand and cultivate resilience with compassion. Not just saying, oh, I'm fine, I'm strong, I can deal with this thing and move forward, I'm just going to enjoy my life. But when we can stay with the problem and sit with the pain for a longer time, then I think that awareness can actually evoke, it can motivate the emotions, it can motivate us to actually feel others' challenges, and it can connect with us other beings. And then after that, it will engage us into a skillful engagement, and it leads us to action to do something for the world, because we are so grateful that I was able to come out from this pain and this problem. Because something difficult happens in our life, we cannot see anything more in that difficult or pain. We see only that is a whole, you know. If we cannot see anything more in the pain than just pain itself, I think it is a big indication, and it is a big indication our pain or discomfort or despair is asking our attention and asking a reconnection to our life through that pain. It is asking to reignite our human intelligence so we can be aware and discover there is much more than just pain and sadness and despair in those situations. But whether that is a personal challenges or whether that is a collective challenges we are facing in our world, I think most of us are so resilient, maybe. We hear, we see, and half an hour later, we feel so normal. Is that the resilience we want? Is that the resilience we want to cultivate? Or we need more than just feeling okay and I am fine and I can find peace in my life, I can find contentment in my life, and I'm just going to live my life, you know, it's like nothing really matters to me. I think a lot about my own life, because resilience for me, and I'm going through so much as a child, my childhood. But my teachers who taught me resilience were not just a mere resilience. It was more coming from the compassion practice. Sitting, being able to sit with the misery, sadness, and sorrow, and understanding the situation, and coming out of bouncing back from those challenging events of your life, and now using those as a source to heal the world and others. Maybe that sort of resilience is important. Maybe we should advocate this kind of resilience. Otherwise, I mean, so much thing, when we think about the challenges we are facing as an individual and as a humanity, wonderful people, good to people, but when you look, most of us are what I call happiness seeker, peace seeker. We seek happiness, we seek peace, joy through prayers, we seek through distractions, we seek peace and happiness through buying things. We are not happiness creator. We are not peace creator, because we cannot sit with the discomfort and problem. As I said, it is a different set of the skill that we need so we can sit with the discomfort and pain. Then something like a war, I'm thinking a bigger picture, the Ukraine war, right now in the Middle East. Something like this situation, sometimes when situation becomes too serious and too dangerous, then normal people like us have a tradition to beg for peace. Excuse me if my language, if I'm sounding too harsh. I call it tradition of begging for peace. As we go out and gather together and say, we want peace, we want peace. When situation becomes very serious, this is a tradition we have. And the tradition of demanding, stop war, we want peace, stop war. But by now we should know that we cannot get peace and happiness by begging and ordering. We can order pizza, we can order ice cream, but not peace and happiness. We are simply, many of us are simply wish makers. We are not peacemakers. We need to shift this mindset. And we all know that our world has not seen for a long time the real power of common people, peace lover. I mean, common people in a sense, peace lover, compassionate people coming together and putting our thoughts, our feelings, and action together. World is missing that. We are the majority. People who are creating wars, we are people who are creating conflicts, are so little. Yet the majority of us, the peace lovers, the compassionate people, we cannot actually, come together and put together our thoughts, our feelings, and action together to do something. But the minorities can actually, because of they have a clear intention, even though they are so little, but they are showing that even though they are so little, when they can put their thoughts and feelings and action together, they can actually destroy everybody's peace and happiness. Yet, we as a common people, we just beg for the peace instead of getting together and doing more productive, more meaningful, more impactful. If these things are bothering us, somebody a few weeks ago, we were having discussion in one conference, very bothered by these wars. And he came to me and he said, Lobsang, I really hate violence. I really hate wars. And I sarcastically, I said, I don't think you really hate war. And I said, I really want people to hate war. I really encourage people to hate war and violence and conflict. So we hate enough so we can do something to bring and restore peace in our world. But I doubt, I really don't think we hate war. Maybe we hate, maybe not, we are not hating war enough. So it motivates us to do something about it. It is really. All good things we see around the world. I'm really optimistic. Obviously, of course, we all see the world is beautiful. So many wonderful things happening in the world and around our life in a day-to-day basis. All good things we see around the world, around our life, is, I think, just because of good people's presence. Our presence can make so many wonderful things happen in our world. It's not we are doing anything. We are not doing anything. Just having the presence of good people can create so many wonderful things. Now we have a vision together. Just imagine if we all can align our hearts and minds and act together on what we truly believe, imagine how our world will turn into. But right now, most of us, even just our presence can create so many beautiful things, so many wonderful things. If we can put together our thoughts and feelings and action together, I don't think world peace is impossible at all. Because we know war is expensive. Peace is very cheap, very inexpensive. Conflict is expensive. But happiness is cheap, very inexpensive. So it's important for us to imagine, important us to dream, important us to imagine together to how to create, how to achieve our shared vision of world peace, the happy world, the better world. But unfortunately, as I said, maybe we are so resilient and we tend to forget. We tend to forget. And what peace we are experiencing right now, and wherever you are, the happiness, your peace we are experiencing, it's just simply happening. But you could see we cannot afford anymore to just let peace happen. Don't just let peace happen. Be proactive. Don't just be a wish maker for peace and happiness. Become peacemaker and happiness creator. Be proactive. People who are creating these conflicts, these wars, these division, they are proactive. They don't just let war happen. They're putting every energy, every effort, every thought to create this conflict. Yet we just pray for the peace. And that's maybe the best thing we can do, or maybe the most amazing thing so far we did. But don't we think we need to do more? The peace we are experiencing is a free right now. That's why it's a very fragile. Anymore, don't just let peace happen. Now be proactive, and we need to become peacemaker rather than, wish maker, rather than praying and wishing for the peace. Because when we talk about cultivating joy or happiness or peace, we all know joy is not simply the absence of hardship and a distress. In fact, it is an ability to navigate our feelings and action, our emotions and action through awareness. It is never going to be absence of distress, absence of conflict, absence of injustice. That's why we need to cultivate these skills and ability to navigate our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts through awareness. When we do that, adversity and crisis can re-energize our purpose. It can re-energize our purpose by introducing fresh perspective whenever we encounter crisis in our life. It will re-energize. And these can be our resources. These can be our fuel. We can turn these adversities, these crises, for our growth, to achieve our shared vision. This is something I believe. At least I could say this is my sincere attempt in every day in my life. I think maybe I should stop talking. I think maybe I should now, maybe you guys can ask a question. Did I talk more than the time you've given me, Mark?
Not at all. Not at all. We can definitely pause. I mean, I could listen to you talk all day, Genla, you know that, but maybe a good time to pause. We have already received a few good questions, so I suppose I could start.
I can hear you, Mark.
I don't know why I went on mute. Could you hear anything I said? I thought I was unmuted. No, none of that. Okay, sorry. I was gonna say again, no, I could thank you for sharing those insights. If you want to pause now, I guess we can do that. I could listen, and I know others have been saying the same thing. We could definitely listen to more for sure, but maybe now is a good time to ask some questions. We've received a few questions already, so I could maybe start to ask. I think because there's so many people on the call, we thought we would kind of keep everybody muted. Maybe at some point we'll go unmute, but we've been gathering questions in the chat, and some people have access to my phone, so I'm getting a few texts with some questions. Jenny posted in the chat that we'd love as many questions as we can handle time-wise. We can probably go another 10, 15 minutes, I think, or as long as it makes sense. So we'd love more questions in the chat, but Genler, if you're ready for questions, maybe I'll get started. I think you touched on this a little bit, but the way this question came over was to you, Genla. Can you share some examples of how, as creators, we can create peace and joy and purpose in our lives? End of question.
Can you repeat, Mark?
Sure.
I didn't understand that question.
Yeah. It says, can you share some examples of how we as creators, how can we create peace and joy and purpose in our lives? Does that make sense, Genla?
Yes, I'm thinking. Good question. I think this question is going to ruin my Saturday party now.
Yes, that's
Important thing is to really identify. If you don't have a peace, or you see any situation is actually taking away your peace, what is destroying your peace? As I asked a question, really actually thinking, reflecting, does that event or experience has an intrinsic power to destroy your peace without your consent? When we talk about our peace and happiness, it's a very internal thing. Somebody can come and chop my nose and take away my ears and take away, but my peace and happiness is very internal and personal thing. Nobody can even dare to touch without my consent. If you don't have that. Another thing is we must understand we are the responsible for what we are feeling and where we are feeling. We must develop very high quality of decoding skills. Life situation is when something challenging thing, crisis happens in our life, the attitude is so important. If you want to see that as a problem, or you want to see that as an open opportunity to decode the message it comes within. Because everything happens in our life, we interpret that situation so independently, so personally, and we make a meaning out of those situations. And what we feel next is a byproduct of your own interpretation. So one has to have a very healthy and a strong skill of decoding these situations in our life. That's why something crisis happens. First, to have a right attitude. Then sit with that. Sit with that long enough with that discomfort. And then now, try to understand what message it has for me. Because whatever we feel next is our own story. Often it's not the situation. It is our own story we define. I think our life, when we think about human life, our life is stored with all essential ingredients. Is it right? Stored? Stored. Our life is stored with all essential ingredients. And everybody has to make sure what kind of menu you are preparing for the rest of your life. We have right to prepare any kind of menu, but I say at least make sure you have two recipes. One recipe for happiness, one menu for peace. And enjoy destroying rest of your recipe. But at least do one favor for yourself. One recipe for peace, one recipe for happiness, and another recipe for good party. So that's the game we feel. Like everybody has this. And we cook according to our recipe. And we have to taste. After you cook, you have to taste. And then you don't blame if you don't like the taste. It is what you prepared for your life. I'm not sure I'm making sense or not.
Yeah, no, it's good. We know it's Saturday night. At Jumps at Gutsall, if my math is correct, it's 9:30 at night. So I can tell you have Saturday night party on your mind there, and that's understandable. Yeah, another question that came in. This one's really thoughtful in terms of some reflecting that was happening while you were speaking, Genla, and it. I'll just summarize. The woman who submitted this question said she's been thinking while you were talking about where does joy come from, and joy definitely comes from inside of us, and the challenges come from everywhere, both inside of us and from those close to us and from society. It says we feel joy. Oftentimes we feel joy in successfully confronting a challenge. So one of the first steps to finding joy and understanding challenge and pain is to understand our part in confronting it. So the question is, how does Lobsang see resilience in the different contexts of facing challenge and finding joy?
Wow.
I know, that's a big question. Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
I have very little hairs left now. Do more session?
That's
a good question. Where does joy come from? But again, but again, I don't know. I think that is the answer. If I try to be very philosophical, I think, joy comes from compassion. Joy comes from gratitude. Joy is not, again, always a pleasant feeling. When we go to a deeper sense of contentment, sometimes those joy can be very harsh and even rough. Joy is very superficial. But deep sense of happiness and contentment is obviously comes from compassion, from love. When we have that deep understanding and a practice of love and compassion, I don't think it really matters whether we have a joy in whatever doing. It's not so, it's very superficial. Here I'm being a little bit philosophical, but it's a good question. I don't know how to answer this practically. Come up with maybe a practical and more it's a good question. I'll think about this. Maybe any of you can share if you have any thoughts on this.
Gendler, in a little different light, we have another question back to your mentioning of the situation in Ukraine and the Middle East and painfully in many places in the world. And the question is, can you talk more about whether or not hating war is valuable? And what is the flip side of that approach? And would that flip side be a more powerful motivator than just hating the challenge of war?
But yeah, obviously, if you're a highly realized person, then you don't need to use a hate to actually come up with a better motivation. But in an average person, personally, I'm thinking, it's okay to dislike the wrong behaviors. It is okay to dislike misconduct. And especially, it is okay to dislike the misconduct which takes other innocent people's life. If that is motivating you to do something more meaningful and bigger than your hate, maybe it's worth it. But I would not encourage to actually the hate the person who is causing the war and conflict. But we can be compassionate to the person, and we can hate their misconduct. We can hate their the action which is causing innocent people's life. But I'm not saying that is the only way to motivate yourself to do something. See, there's always two things happening. One group of people, we are always trying to actually manage the crisis. And something happens. There's another group of people, you prepare, you have a long-term vision, that you prepare the future generation, because you prepare children. We educate our future generation because we dislike so much happening in our world. This present generation is responsible, and our previous generation is also partially responsible for all these wrong things happening in the world. Of course, we have to think both short-term and long-term. But peace has to begin with every individual. The peace cannot come from top down. Peace cannot order. We cannot demand. We need to educate. We can educate people with the peace. And that requires long-term commitment and determination. Without losing a faith. That's why when I start Jamse Ghazal, I said, I am preparing the compassion warrior. We need more compassion and peace warrior. So we can dismantle the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Air Force, blah, blah, blah. And we can build the Ministry of Peace, Ministry of Compassion, Ministry of Nonviolence. Those would be much cheaper, and more younger people will join because it's a gain for everybody. Mm. And that's why this is my purpose. This is where I get energy. Because I know I cannot demand a peace. I cannot order peace. I can't back peace. If peace is a priority for me, then I have to work within myself and I have to work with the larger community. So we prepare our next generation so they don't have to go and live with the mess that we created and our previous generation has created. And most important thing is every individual has to act, be proactive. We cannot just simply sit, passively wait, and expect that peace will happen. We have to be proactive, I think. I mean, think about a small family. I think about Jamse Russell. We are a small community, relatively. There are some people, they just wish the peace and happiness. But I know there are some people, we have to work very hard to have a peace and happiness in a community. Because we know we cannot just effort to wait the peace and happiness to happen, because it doesn't happen that way. If something happens like that, we know that is very superficial. It's not going to last. It doesn't have any impact. Think about a small family. When we value something, peace in a family, happiness in a family, everybody has to participate actively to restore that when something crisis happens, restore that and maintain that and grow that. So now apply that to the larger community in an international level. I mean, I think again back to the joy. Is a joy I personally get is a doing this kind of thing. Endless joy, deep joy. I don't need to eat ice cream. I don't need to buy things. I don't need to do anything else. But even thinking about this, I get so much joy. I don't think in many ways it's complicated to have a joyful life. Very easy to have a joyful life. Very easy to have a happy life.
And I think we have one more question, which I think kind of captures what a lot of people are feeling right now. As we were preparing to have this gathering and this conversation with you, we were talking to lots of friends and supporters, many of whom are on this call, and I think there's a sense that a lot of people are feeling this way that this question was posed. It's actually in the chat, so I think a lot of you have already probably seen this question, but I'm going to ask this question to you, Gendler, and maybe this is a good way to start to sort of wrap up a little bit as we keep an eye on time. But the question goes like this. It says, Gendler, you talked about how you are affected by outside occurrences, how we are affected by outside occurrences. It's up to us. So how those things external affect us is up to us. The person who asked the question says, I agree, but what do you do when something overwhelms you and you don't know why? And when we sit with it, it just becomes more confusing and more upsetting, and you don't understand why this event has such an effect on you. So what do you do then? So yeah, that's the end of the question. And another important one.
One important thing, it is so crucial to have people in your life who are close to you, that you trust, that you can share your challenges as well as a joy with the people. It is so crucial. And of course, there will be a time that we all feel that I cannot do this alone. And we shouldn't do this alone, and we shouldn't go through this alone. Our modern life is so much emphasizing on individualism, disconnection, technologies. It seems like they are adding so much value in our life. But in many ways, we know how it is actually making more and more distance. The connections we are building, relationships we are building are becoming more and more superficial. So always make a priority. There is individual of resilience. Individual resilience, which is closely associated with, I'm talking about self-compassion. It is okay to feel that way. And we all feel that way. And that is not end of the life. It is okay. But do not reject it. Do not try to push that away. Really sit with that. Try to sit with that. Try to understand why it's happening and what is bringing to you as I test. Try to decode the message it brings to you. As I said, life is stored with many good essential ingredients, and sometimes we cook bad food. It's okay. We have to taste it. But it is just a food, 1 time, 2 time, 3 time. We can cook it better and better, better and better. We will understand more when these ingredients pops up in your life, and what to choose and what to not to choose, and what to cook and what not to cook, and what to mix and what not to mix. In an individual level, one must practice these skills. Whether you call it meditation, whether you call it whatever you call it. Always finding time for yourself. Priority number 1. Do not, as I said, do not bring distraction. Always sit, if possible, half an hour every day. I've been talking this about, date with yourself. Then, second, create your circle of community. So important to have that. Mm-hmm. And it makes huge difference. When something very challenging happens, I tell people, when I go out for my vacation, for my break, I come back to this community. And when sometimes I'm overwhelmed, I'm not joking. Sometimes I don't need to do anything. Just be here with the people I love and people who care about me. But the modern world is not going to value these things. They will always have a more complicated treatment and solution for that. It all comes back to reconnecting, rebuilding the relationship with self and others. So important, and I think especially in a difficult time.
Mm. Speaking of difficult times, we're still getting really good questions, and there's one I'd like to ask. I know that for a lot of people around the world, sometimes it's either late at night or early in the morning. It's a Saturday in the holidays, so I imagine people need to get going. There's more questions coming in, so we're fine to keep going. But if folks do need to start dropping off in the next few minutes, we totally understand. What I'd like to say now, just as a brief comment, before we ask a couple more questions, and Gendler, if you're okay, would you be okay, Gendler, with another question or two?
I'm totally fine. I'm fine, Mark. Thank you. I'm
Okay,
totally
good.
fine.
The one thing I wanted to say, and we had mentioned this at the beginning before we really started, is today's gathering is really a kickoff of what we expect will be a lot more of next year. We would like to probably at least once a quarter, 4 to 6 times next year, we'll have more gatherings, conversations with Genla. And what we'd really like to hear from you is, what did you think of today, as well as what ideas do you have for topics to discuss with Lobsang next year? What would you like to hear Lobsang talk about next year? And would welcome your feedback and insights. And you can email me. It's Mark, just my name. I'll put it in the chat. Or Jenny, could you actually put my email address in the chat for us? It's mark@jamse.org. Just email me with your thoughts about today, and also what you'd like to see us be doing next year as we do a lot more of these gatherings. And if anybody does have to drop off in the next couple minutes, I do just want to say thanks again for all you're doing to make the world a kinder and gentler place, and wish you all the best during the holiday season. We'll do another kind of closing at the end, but we do have a couple of more questions. So one question that came in, another one that's not easy, Genla, so I'm sorry, this may take the last piece of hair out of your head, but the question goes like this: the political arena makes decisions on war and peace. Beyond running for political office, how can we be more proactive?
I don't know any people who hold political position can make war go away. I don't think so. Number one, I think if you truly want to make a world peace, then do not join to politics. I mean, it is very obvious. Right now, we're talking about maybe a couple of wars happening in our world. And those are with a very clear, personal, greedy agenda people have. It's very clear. Any common people can understand that. It is a no-brainer thing. But you see the 7 billion people, how many people on this earth? And most people are not in a war, and most people are not even interested in a war. You could see the peaceful communities. You could see the happy communities. You could see the compassionate community. Do you think these are because of the political people are making peace and able to control this? No. I mean, you and I sitting, no matter how it gets difficult in our life, we will never pick up gun and shoot to each other. Do we think because of the political decision we are scared of? No, because of the peace we have inside us. Ultimately, as I said, see, the common people, I hear common people, I'm referring to the peace lovers and compassionate people. I think we just need to get proactive. We just need to do more than just protesting and sharing our opinions on the social media. We just need to put together our thoughts and our feelings, and we need to act on that. No political power can withstand the real power of common people. But that has never happened. Our world never actually witnessed that kind of thing. Because we have so much of resilience. We forget within a few weeks or months. And we do not cultivate these, actively. And we are talking about 1 or 2 wars. And we are living in this community where in the remote Himalayas, no boundaries, nothing, open. I don't know, in years, I've never seen even people hitting each other, despite sometimes harsh life, because of remoteness and being economically background. But so much peace, so much love, so much wonderful things happening. And every individual must believe that we have everything we need if we truly wish a peace. And what is holding us back is a big question. That's why I have this big doubt of, is it because of we are so resilient? So I'm basically defeating the topic. Or my talk has become self-defeating. But I think being in a monastery, raised in a very monastic lifestyle, I like to question these things. I mean, even in where you are, look at around, go morning, go. You see how many wonderful things happening. Those are because of the common people like us. By saying that, I know it's not easy. I'm not saying it's so easy. It's not easy. But one must focus on all the wonderful things happening. We should not get distracted. But always find every day in your day-to-day life that if you believe in a peace, and there's so many things you can do, the contributing towards a peace, making world peace, even actually smiling to the person, giving a genuine smile to the person who deserve. Maybe you feel he or she doesn't deserve my smile, and able to give that person your genuine smile is a one step towards world peace. Of course, we can give a smile to our loved ones and people, they give us so much. But the first step to making world peace, if you cannot dare to go to the dead person and maybe go Google it and print his or her photo, your enemy, put on your shrine, and every morning you get up, give one genuine smile to the person you hate. And after that, we can talk about the politicians. If we can find peace doing that, and that's a way to create that. We don't need to wait to the politicians to make a peace. At least I believe.
Again, earlier when you were answering the, well, wait a minute, I was going to ask Jenny. I wanted to see if we could unmute when the question was asked about when you're feeling overwhelmed, what can you do about that? And you mentioned that it's very helpful if you have people that you love and support you and care for you that you can be with. And I just thought before we wind down, since there's so many amazing people on this call, it'd be good if we could unmute everybody, but I was asking Jenny if it's possible. Yeah, that's what I mean, Jenny. Can you go ahead and invite everybody to unmute if they want? Because I thought before we go, if anybody just wants to say a quick hello to Lobsang, I mean, it's a pretty small gathering right now, and Jenny's gonna unmute this, and I think you're gonna see a pop-up, and she's gonna invite you to unmute. So if you want to unmute, just before we wrap, if you wanted to just say hello or anything as we wind down. You know, Lobsang mentioned the word disconnection and how sometimes there's a disconnection is a is a challenge these days. So I think rather than all this muting, I thought it'd be good. There's Alan. Alan went up when he's unmuted. He's ready to go.
Hello, friends. All my greetings and thanks from Paris, and you know where we are, and happy holidays to all. And you know, you're all in our hearts and thoughts all the time. It doesn't matter where we are, when I'm in California or Paris or the south of France, but we appreciate the words of wisdom that we've been carrying for us for so long, since our days in Concord, Lobsang, when Jamesy was in the early stage of your thinking at the time, and it became this wonderful, wonderful project that became such a wonderful reality. So you are creating peace and happiness in the world with what you are doing, and you're an inspiration for all of us. So big hugs from Claire and Raphael. And you know, we send our love, and you know, happy holidays to all of you guys. And let's do that, yeah, more often. It will be so wonderful. Mark, thank you so much also for everything you're doing, and all members of your team and board, and you know, Watu and Dia and everybody, Sandy, you know, Jennifer. So sending you big hugs, guys.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Likewise.
Thank you. Same.
Thank you so much. Biff and Selena, are you guys in the room where the computer is showing the jumps at Gatsall gang? Unmute that for a second, because can we get team jumps at Gatsall? Hey, wow. Wow, that is amazing. So it's so special to be with you guys. Thank you for giving up your Saturday night to be with us. We could feel your love and your energy that room. Certainly many of us wish we were there with you guys, but thank you so much for being with us. It made this global gathering so special to be with so many of you from Jamse Gatsal. So thank you so much. And Raju, you were unmuted there for a second. It's good to see you, man. It's good to see you on video. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yes, sir. Same here, sir.
Yeah.
It's really good to see all of you together. Even Vasu ma'am is here. Jerry sir is here also. BZ ma'am is here. So good to see everyone, and thank you, Yanla, for today's session. It was really helpful for me because, as I've mentioned about, the things that I've been going through in my college life, and some of the things that there is a one thing that I really liked about today's talk was where you mentioned we are wish makers, not peacemakers. So this is a thing that really stuck in my mind, and I would love to know. I would love to learn a bit deeper into this thing. And yeah, thank you everyone. And thank you, Kanda.
Thank you, Raju. Good to see you, Raju.
Thank you, Raju.
Same.
Yeah, and then good success. I think some of the Raju, you and some of your brothers and sisters who are at college, I hope some of you will have an opportunity to go back to Jamse Gatsal for the holiday break. I know I heard some have exams and maybe can't, but I hope you'll be home soon and safe
Yes,
travel.
yes. Yes, I'm going home. Yeah.
Nice. Jeff Bailey, it's really good to see you. Oh, your hand is raised too. Look at you, man. I'm sorry. I didn't
Lobsang, it's so wonderful to hear and see you again.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, I'm still here in Worcester, and I really, I'm about to retire, so I really would like to start either the Sangha or some other group, something active. We need something active so we can engage our values in what we learn in Sangha. So I'm welcoming your input, not here necessarily, but I would love to hear from you, and any input you could give me would be wonderful. Great to see you.
Sure, Jeff. Good to see you. So good to see you after a long time. You look great. I think you look like a Santa. Thank you all. So good to see you. I really mean it. It's such a wonderful to have this kind of space to connect. And yeah, and Mark and Vasu and all of you. I mean, Jenny and all of you making this happen, and everybody who took a time to be on, together, to come together and make this wonderful experience. So good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.